Alarm went off. 5:30 a.m., winter, dark outside, training day. Reached over to turn it off. Shoulder said no. Not injury, not a pull, not something I did wrong. Just resistance. Like the joint itself had filed a complaint overnight and nobody told me. Tried to sit up, back joined in. Took me a second to register what was happening. This wasn't soreness from yesterday's session. This wasn't fatigue from a long week. This was my body waking up before I did and deciding it had something to say. Lower back first, that familiar tightening. Then the knees, both of them, that dull, deep ache that used to be a Tuesday thing and was now just morning. Then the shoulders, rotating slowly, making sounds they didn't used to make. I've done this routine 1,000 times. Alarm, up, moving. The kind of thing you stop thinking about because you've done it so many times, it doesn't require thought anymore. That morning, it required everything. Sit up slowly, wait for the back to unlock. Feet on the floor, wait for the knees to agree. Stand, wait for all of it. Back, knees, hips, shoulders, to arrive at some kind of consensus that yes, we're doing this. Yes, we're vertical. Yes, we're moving. 5 minutes. 5 minutes to get out of bed. Nobody saw that. No camera, no crew. Just a man sitting on the edge of his mattress in the dark at 5:30 in the morning, waiting for his own body to catch up to his intentions. And somewhere in those 5 minutes, something became clear. This wasn't an off day. This wasn't soreness. This wasn't something that would be gone by Thursday. Something had changed, quietly, without asking, without announcing itself. The way a tide changes, you don't see it moving. You just look down one day and realize the waterline is somewhere different than it used to be. I was 58 years old, almost 60. And standing there that morning, I knew something I didn't know the morning before. Not temporarily different, permanently. And I didn't know yet what to do with that. Here's the thing nobody warns you about. It's not one thing. It's never one thing. It's everything, all at once, all quietly. The body is the obvious one. Everyone knows it's coming. You're told, you prepare yourself. Doesn't matter. When it's your joints, your back, your knees, your shoulders, knowing it was coming doesn't make it easier to live inside. The math changes on you slowly, so slowly you almost miss it. 55, I could train hard 6 days a week, recover fine, show up the next morning ready. 58, train hard 3 days, need 4 to recover. That felt manageable, annoying, but manageable. 60, train hard once, and your body sends you a bill for the rest of the week. That's not a collapse, that's a narrowing, gradual, quiet. One day you try to do something you did last year without thinking, and you can't. Not because you're injured, not because you're sick, just because the account has less in it than it used to, and everything costs more now. Body sends bills, you pay them. That's the deal after 60. But the body I expected. What I didn't expect, what sneaks up so much quieter, is what happens to who you think you are. Action star, physical actor, the guy who could do the stunt, take the hit, do the work. That was part of me. Not a small part, a foundational part. The thing I built decades of work on top of. Then one day on set, a stunt coordinator pulls me aside, offers a modified version of the sequence. We can make it easier. Easier. That word landed somewhere I wasn't ready for. I didn't need easier. I'd never needed easier. Easier wasn't part of the vocabulary I built my career in. But I couldn't say that anymore, not honestly. And when the identity starts going, the certainty goes with it. When you're young, you're certain about everything, what's right, who you are, what you know. That certainty feels like strength, feels like clarity. 60 teaches you that certainty was just ignorance. with less information to doubt itself. The questions come in about choices made, about the version of yourself you were so sure was permanent. Who are you when you can't do the thing that defined you? And worse, who are you when you're not even sure that thing defined you the right way? And then, purpose. What you're actually for, why you're here. Used to have answers to that, or thought I did. 60 asked those questions again, louder, less patient. Some relationships don't survive the asking. Not through drama, no falling out, just drift. People you thought were permanent fixtures in your life, quietly becoming occasional ones. Growing in different directions at different speeds. Time revealing what was never quite as solid as it looked. And the answers that worked at 30, prove yourself, build the career, become the thing, they go hollow. They stop fitting. You reach for them out of habit and find they don't hold the weight anymore. Have to find new ones. And at 60, I didn't have them yet. Body, identity, purpose, all of it shifting. Not dramatically, not all at once in some moment you can point to. Quietly, while you're just trying to live your life. You wake up one day and realize the ground you built everything on is moving. And you're still standing on it. Act 3, the crisis. Target, 800 words. Screen time, approximately 320. Late 2022, script comes in. I remember reading it and feeling something I hadn't felt in a while. That pull, that immediate, quiet certainty that this is the one. Character I believed in, story that mattered, my wheelhouse completely. Action, physicality, the kind of role I've built my whole career doing. I was excited, actually excited, making notes in the margins, already living inside the character. Then I reached the appendix. Physical requirements, stunt breakdown, training schedule. 12 weeks intensive, fight choreography 6 hours a day, wire work, high impact sequences, the full thing. I read it once, then I read it again. And the second time through, each line landed a little heavier than the last. 12 weeks intensive, I've done that, done it a dozen times, done it without thinking twice. But that was before the knee in 2018 that never fully came back. Before the shoulders that have been degrading quietly from years of exactly this kind of work. Before the back that carries its own long history of what I've asked it to do. I sat there and did the math. Could I do some of it? Probably. Could I do all of it? 12 weeks of training, then 4 months of shooting, then 6 months of press, and still be standing at the end? The math didn't work. My body couldn't cash that check anymore. I sat with that for a long time before I picked up the phone. Called my agent, told him, I can't do this one. Silence, then, can't or won't? Can't. Body won't hold up to the training, not for 12 weeks. He offered a lighter schedule, modified approach. I said no. Then I'm not giving them what they need. That's not fair to anyone. Another silence, longer this time. And in that silence, I heard something I recognized. Disappointment, concern, maybe pity. Hung up, put the phone down, sat with the quiet. That's what falling apart looks like. Not dramatic, not a breakdown, not some moment of crisis you could write a scene around. Just a man on a phone, passing on a role he wanted because his body said no. That's it. That's all it was. That quiet. The first 3 days after that call, I won't dress it up, were grief. Pure, uncomplicated loss. The physical machine I'd built. The action star. The guy who could take the hit, do the stunt, show up and do the work no matter what. That guy was dying. Slowly, but dying. And this role, this one role I had to pass on, wasn't the cause of that. It was just the confirmation. A death certificate for an identity I'd been carrying for decades. It wasn't about one role. It was about what one role revealed. Days 4 through 7, I spent looking for workarounds. Train differently. Start now, get ahead of it. Different methods, smarter approach. Maybe, maybe, maybe. The body doesn't care about maybe. The body has real limits. And crossing 60, those limits had narrowed in ways I was still learning to measure. Week 2, I stopped fighting it. Just sat with the truth. Some capabilities are gone, not diminished, gone, not coming back. And acceptance, real acceptance, doesn't feel like relief. It doesn't feel like clarity or peace or any of the things people say it feels like. It feels like death, of possibility, of a version of yourself you were certain would last longer than it did. Nothing lasts forever. That includes the physical version of yourself you knew, the one you relied on, the one you built your identity inside of. That version has a shelf life. I was learning where mine ended. But then, somewhere in week 3, the question changed. Not what can I get back? That question had nowhere to go. I'd exhausted it. What can I build with what's left? Started looking at work differently. Not what roles I was right for, what roles this version of me was right for. This body, this age, this particular set of capabilities and limitations that were now, honestly, just mine. Training shifted too, not to recover what was lost, to maintain what remained. Different goal, more honest goal. That's where it started, not with an answer, with a better question. 3 weeks after that phone call, standing in the same bedroom, same stiff morning, same 5 minutes to get vertical. Different question on the table. Not what I'd lost, what I still had. Didn't know yet what to do with it. But at least I was asking the right thing. Before you can build anything, you have to know what's actually broken. Not what you wish was broken. Not the version of the inventory that's easier to live with. What's actually, honestly, true. So I did that, sat down with it. No performance, no optimism, just what is real right now. Body, diminished, still functional, can train, can work, can show up, just not the way I used to. The ceiling is lower, the recovery is longer. That's what's true. Mind, still sharp, but it tires faster than it did. There's a shorter window now before the quality drops. That's what's true. Identity, who I was, gone. Who I am now, not yet clear. Somewhere in between, still forming. That's what's true. Purpose, the old answers are hollow. The new ones aren't here yet. That's what's true. That's the material I had to work with. Not great, but real. And you can only build from real. You cannot build from what you wish were real. Then, before anything else, grief. I know that sounds like something you skip, something you manage around, get through quickly and move on to the productive part. I tried that. Doesn't work. You can't build on top of unprocessed loss. The foundation won't hold. I had to actually mourn the action star, the physical machine, the version of myself that could do anything the work asked and show up the next morning ready to do it again. That version of me, I had to sit with the fact that he was gone. Not diminished, gone. It took months, longer than I expected, longer than I wanted. But you can't rush grief into something useful. It has its own timeline. All you can do is not fight it. Let it move through, let it finish, and trust that when it's done, your hands will be free again. And then, when the grief had done what it needed to do, I looked up and asked a different question. What's still standing? Experience, decades of it. Can't train like I did at 50, but I know how to work smart in a way I didn't at 35. I know what matters. I know what doesn't. That knowledge doesn't get injured, doesn't need recovery days. Presence. Something about age deepens this. I don't fully understand it, but I've felt it. The ability to be completely, honestly in a scene, in a moment, That hasn't declined. If anything, it's grown. Craft, the actual acting, emotional truth, character, the thing underneath the physicality. Better now than it's ever been. That's the thing that doesn't decline with age. That compounds. Every year adds to it. Not replacements for what was lost. I want to be clear about that. But a foundation, something real, something to build on. And here's what I learned about the rebuild. The mistake is trying to rebuild to the same scale. Can't, won't hold. The structure won't support it because the materials have changed. You have to build smaller, more focused, more deliberate, more honest about what it's actually for. Training. I used to train everything. Now I train what matters, what keeps the body functional and moving and capable of the work. 3 days on, 4 days recovery. And the recovery, I had to learn this the hard way. The recovery is not the break from the work. The recovery is the work. Rest stopped being wasted time. It became the whole point. Work. I used to say yes to almost everything. Now I ask one question first. Does this fit who I am now? Not who I was, who I am. Fewer projects, better fit. Mentor roles. Older characters carrying the weight of experience, playing my age, and finding that the limitations, when you stop fighting them, become part of what makes the character real. And then the hardest part, the metric shift. Old success, do more, be more, achieve more, always more. That metric made sense at 30. At 60, it'll break you. New success, sustain what's here, deepen what matters, don't decline rapidly. That's the new measure, not growth, maintenance, not more, enough. At 60, maintenance is victory. Staying functional is the achievement. Had to adjust what success looks like. That hurt the ego, genuinely hurt. Ego doesn't like being told the goalposts moved. Ego wants what it always wanted. But ego doesn't determine reality. Reality does. Last month, script comes in, action adjacent role, good project, good people. I read it, and honestly, I could probably do it. Probably. The physical demands were manageable. The training wouldn't be brutal. On paper, it works. 2 years ago, I would have said yes before I finished reading. But the question isn't, can I anymore? The question is, should I? And when I ask that honestly, really honestly, not the version of honest that tells you what you want to hear, the answer was no. Body would pay more than the role gives. The recovery cost would bleed into everything else. The rebuild I've been quietly working on would take the hit. So I said no. No drama, no grief, no long conversation with myself about what it meant. Nothing to prove, only the rebuild to protect. That's what the work looks like now. Every morning the same reminder, 5 minutes to get vertical. Used to fight that. Used to start the day already frustrated, already behind, already measuring myself against a version of mornings that no longer exists. Now it's just the morning, the pace of 60, gentle start, careful movement, sustainable. Not trying to recover what's gone, building what's possible now. That's the whole practice. Nothing more complicated than that. But I want to be honest about something, because the rebuild isn't clean. It isn't linear, and pretending otherwise wouldn't be fair to you. 6 months ago, I fell off it completely. Got convinced myself, to be clear, nobody did this to me, that I could train the way I did at 50, that if I just pushed hard enough, committed fully enough, the body would respond the way it used to, that the limits were negotiable if the effort was real. So I pushed, really pushed. Body sent a bill, injury, 3-month setback, back to square one on things I'd spent months carefully building. 3 months of work, gone, because I stopped listening. That wasn't rebuilding. That was denial wearing rebuilding's clothing. Pretending the limits aren't real, arguing with reality. And reality? Reality always wins, every time, without exception. The difference between the two, I've learned to feel it now. Rebuild feels sustainable, quiet, like something that could last because it's built to last. Denial has a different texture, an urgency to it, a performance, an edge that's really just ego looking for an audience. True rebuild doesn't need an audience, not even your own. When I was pushing too hard 6 months ago, I was performing for a version of myself that no longer existed, trying to prove something to someone who wasn't there anymore. That's the signal. When it starts feeling like a performance, that's when you know it's gone sideways. If you're somewhere in the middle of this, here's something practical. 3 columns, write them down. Gone, diminished, remains. Gone, be honest. What's actually not coming back? No wishful thinking, no, maybe if I work hard enough. What is genuinely, permanently behind you? Write it, all of it. Don't soften it. Diminished, what's still there but different, costs more, takes longer, works at a lower ceiling than it used to. Still yours, just changed. And then remains. What survived? What's still functional? What's still true? What was there when the falling apart finished and you looked up and took stock of what was left standing? That column, remains. That's the foundation. That's what you build with. Not what's gone, not what you wish you still had. What's actually, honestly, still there. Build smaller than before, more focused, more honest about what it's actually for. Not to prove anything, not to recover what's gone, just what's possible now, with this, with what remains. That morning, 5:30 a.m., winter, 5 minutes to get vertical. Body protesting in its quiet, daily way. Everything still falling apart, slowly, as it does. Not fighting it anymore, not mourning it, just what is. My body, my 60, my particular version of the unraveling that everyone gets and almost nobody talks about. Not the machine I was, the person I am, with limitations, with capabilities, both real, both mine. Everything falls apart after 60, quietly, slowly. That's the truth nobody tells you. What they also don't tell you, you can rebuild, different, smaller, more honest, maybe stronger in the ways that turn out to matter more. The falling apart isn't the end. It's the breaking down before the better rebuild, if you let it be. That's enough. That's everything.